Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Faster May, good evening, it's 5:30. This is Update for Monday 7th of August 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the Isle of Man and background to that news with sport and business and Sea Watch and travel updates and the newsmakers in person. This evening, Southern MHKs caution over the Eristane wind farm. Building or extending next year will forget fossil fuel heating. Peel Cathedral's closed until next Easter. The show gates are open for the Royal Manx Show, and the Ravens are now on back-to-back defeats.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster My, William King.
Faster My. People considering taking part in the COVID review are being reassured of its independence from government. Kate Brunner KC, who's chairing the review, says, "I am not acting for or against government. I am reviewing government's actions in an impartial way." A pilot has narrowly avoided being sent to prison after being caught at the scene of a medical evacuation armed with 6 kitchen knives, which he claimed were to protect his family. 64-year-old Ian Saunders of Strathallan Crescent in Douglas had to be warned by taser-trained police officers to drop them just after midnight on the 30th of April. Plans for new buildings and extensions will need to include low-carbon heating systems from 2024. The rule was due to come into force last week but has been pushed back. In international news, the UK government insists a barge in Dorset, which is housing asylum seekers from today, is a good alternative to hotels. The Bibby Stockholm is facing condemnation from some human rights campaigners. Police say 3 hill walkers have been found dead in the Scottish Highlands. A search began after they failed to return from their trip in Glencoe. And in sport, it's understood Tottenham have rejected Bayern Munich's latest bid for Harry Kane. The German Giants reportedly made a final offer of over £86 million on Friday. Those are the Update News headlines.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goromaya, thank you, William. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, no wind warning in operation for the North Irish Sea. State of sea is smooth, later slight, and we're dry this evening. Variable cloud in light south-westerly, and then a light northwesterly overnight, down to 11 degrees, but not an unpleasant evening. For Tuesday, tomorrow, Jamert, dry with sunny spells, a moderate northwesterly, top temperature 18 degrees. After dark it'll remain dry and cloudy. The overnight minimum is 12. Into Jacrane, Wednesday dry and bright to start off with, then cloudy and humid with low cloud and coastal mist developing, especially around the south and west coast. Daylight maximum 20 degrees. Sunset tonight, 6 minutes past 9. Low waters at 11:15. High tide 2 minutes to 5 tomorrow morning. Sunrise 18 minutes to 6 in the morning. Low water at 29 minutes to midday.
Manx Glass and Glazing can produce bespoke splashbacks for your kitchen in any colours. Speak to the team on 674 573.
2 of the Isle of Man's southern MHKs have raised concerns about proposals to build a wind farm at Eristane and Scards. Arbury Castle Town and Maloo representatives Tim Glover and Jason Morehouse say location, timing and infrastructure need to be considered.
There's a lot of concern from the immediate residents in the area, and it's causing them quite a lot of anguish because they're wanting detail as well, and it's an area of natural beauty as well, and I find it difficult to believe that Manx Utilities have yet to even consult Manx wildlife on the issue.
2026 for a wind farm surely is questionable, just in terms of the planning process, in terms of the ordering the turbines and things. I've been in contact with the Chief Minister, and there's the real possibility that they're going to be placing the order before the planning permission is given, and doing something like that is going to create potential massive costs and complications, and it needs to be done in a really careful, considered manner.
And I've put in 2 written questions, one to infrastructure and one to Manx utilities. Differing answers. We've got a very curt, there have been no survey of the Isle of Man's roads and whether it can cope with the weight, the tonnage that this is going to be, because we're dealing with effectively country lanes that have got a bit of tarmac on. They're not properly formed roads really on the Isle of Man. There are very few. So they said, no, there's been no road survey. That came back curtly from infrastructure and from the Manx utilities. We did get a little bit more detail, but again, there was no definition of where the route would be. There was talk of one roundabout, wasn't there, in Castletown that would need some adjustments. Yeah. Well, I would imagine after 50 to 70 tonnes of wind turbine has gone on Manx roads, there'd be more than just a roundabout that needs repairing.
Plans for new buildings and extension in the Isle of Man will need to include low-carbon heating systems from 2024. Next year. The rule was due to come into force last week, but it's been pushed back. A story from Amy Griffiths.
From the 1st of January, all applications for new buildings and extensions containing fossil fuel heating systems will be rejected. The move is said to help towards the island's push to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2050. It's to prepare for a legal ban coming into force from the 1st of January 2025, which will make it illegal to install a fossil fuel heating system in new buildings and extensions, including where planning permission has already been granted. The changes were due to come into force last week, but government pushed them back to ensure the public are prepared. Plans to move away from these heating systems were announced in 2020 as part of the consultation for the Climate Change Bill. Chair of Climate Change Transformation Board Daphne Kane, MHK, says rejecting plans first before making them illegal will allow for a transition period. She adds it'll have a significant impact on reducing carbon emissions and will ensure anyone buying a new home is future-proofed. Around 200 new homes are built on the island every year.
Update. Brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
Isle of Man Constabulary want to hear from witnesses to an incident of criminal damage at Quarterbridge Public House in Douglas last Wednesday, 2nd of August. If you have any dashcam footage in the area between 10:40pm and 10:50pm, so 20 and 10 to 11 last Wednesday evening, you've been asked to contact police headquarters on 631212. FC Isle of Man have now suffered back-to-back defeats as they were humbled on Saturday with a 3-0 home loss against Little and Remke. Ravens midfielder Steve Whitley explained where he thought things went wrong for the side in the game, but also says no need to panic at this early stage.
It was a tough game, but we should be coming away with the 3 points. No disrespect to them, they weren't anything special. We made a couple of errors at the back. There was a penalty which was, arguable, and then all of a sudden we're 2-0 down, and then we're chasing the game then from early on. But we dug deep, we kept going, but just a shame we just didn't have enough to get over the line. I'd probably say frustration because it was 1-0 at half time, but it wasn't tight. We were all over them. We dominated possession. They struggled to control us. We were getting in behind. We were going down the wide flanks, and they couldn't really handle us. We just didn't have that clinical edge going in front of goal. And it's just a shame we lost Sean Doyle so early on. He's our talisman, he's our number 9, and then as soon as you lose him, the focal point's gone. So we struggled, but then we kept battling, and like I said, we got really caught out on a penalty at 2-0, and then the game probably changed then, looking back. I think the good thing about being around, this is our 3rd year, we've been here before, we've been in difficult patches. It's only our 3rd game, it's our 2nd loss, which isn't ideal, but it's so early doors. We've got a week now to focus on it in training and put the wrongs right. The league isn't lost or won this early on, so look at the positives, also look at the negatives and work on there, and make it right next game.
Just how much faith do you have in this team that they can turn things around, and quickly if needs be?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there was 15, 16 players out there, but behind the scenes people won't realise there's 40, 50 people training. There's people itching to come in. It's competitive in training. There's tackles flying in. Everyone wants a shirt, so it's good. And it's not a rough patch. It's just the start. But like you said, 43 games to go, and makes you feel a bit sick saying that. But just got to go next week and then go from there.
The show gates for the Royal Manx Agricultural Show are now open. Organisers had asked exhibitors not to go onto the show field due to the wet conditions last week, but Carol Kenyak, who's a member for the event, says come rain or shine, the show goes on.
We work for 365 days of the year to prepare this show, as do many of our exhibitors. For us, it's the highlight of the year. We want to flagship the show as much as we can And so the weather has caused some concern that we've had to limit traffic on the show field simply because we want to show the field at its absolute best when our visitors arrive on Friday and Saturday. We worked long and hard yesterday and it's worked in our favour by keeping the traffic off the show field. We've managed to erect a great deal of tents, and as of today the show field is open. We're limiting the gateways that people can come into, but exhibitors can now come to the show field to set up their trade stands.
Important are these shows for the agriculture sector?
Absolutely vital to all of the farmers, the producers, the trade stand holders as well. We're trying very, very hard to bridge the gap between the agricultural and the non-agricultural people within the island. It's very important to us that people understand what agriculture is about, how it is run by the weather. We all know that's something we can't control, whether it be too dry, too hot, too wet. It's something that we just have to work with.
And looking ahead to the weekend, all excited, all ready to go?
Absolutely. As we say, this is something we look forward to all year long. I work all year on the show. The show will go ahead no matter what happens. Rain, shine, we will be open at 9 o'clock on Friday morning.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Motor ship Ben McCree left Heysham at 14 minutes past 2. She'll be into the bay fairly shortly and onto the link span in Douglas, departing this evening at 8:15, getting to Heysham shortly before midnight. Overnight departures 2:15, back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. High-speed craft Manannan left Douglas at 10 to 4. She'll be into the Mersey in the next 20-25 minutes or so and onto the link span at just gone 6:30, departing at 7:15, quick turnaround, and back to Douglas at 10 tonight. Tomorrow morning's departures, 7 o'clock Manannan heads to Dublin, 9 o'clock Ben McCree to Heysham.
Follow the Steam Packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
A pilot narrowly avoided being sent to prison after being caught at the scene of a medical evacuation armed with 6 kitchen knives, which he claimed were there to protect his family. Tessa Hawley from Douglas Courthouse.
Ian Saunders of Strathallan Crescent in Douglas had to be warned by taser-trained police officers to drop them just after midnight on the 30th of April. The 64-year-old had been spotted on Queen's Promenade by a member of the public, holding a knife in his right hand. He also had 5 knives concealed in his left hand. At the time, a medical helicopter was landing on the beach due to bad weather conditions, and emergency services had closed part of Douglas Promenade to facilitate this. Saunders was arrested and in interview said he'd heard a helicopter and due to his knowledge and experience of aircraft had believed it was military. This, he claimed, caused him to fear for his family's safety. He later admitted possessing prohibited articles, all exceeding 3 inches in length. During sentencing at Douglas Courthouse, Saunders' advocate described it as an extremely unusual set of circumstances, which had taken place on the experienced and well-travelled pilot's birthday. It still remains a mystery as to what effectively happened that night, he added. The court was told Saunders had referred himself to Motivate, but there had been no suggestion that he'd been intoxicated on the night. Imposing an 8-week prison sentence suspended for 2 years, High Bailiff Jane Hughes told Saunders there is something going on that needs to be addressed. I consider your offending posed a huge risk to members of the public, she added. The offence is an extremely serious one. Ordering him to pay prosecution costs of £125, the High Bailiff said the suspended sentence would hold his feet to the fire.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 16 minutes before 6, in the UK, the average cost of a property fell 2.4% in the year to July, according to the Halifax House Price Index, after dropping by 2.6% in June. Kim Kinnaird, the director of Halifax Mortgages, said the figures add to the sense of a housing market which continues to display a degree of resilience in the face of tough economic headwinds. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookhall.com. Due to low rain levels in Germany this summer, sections of the Rhine River, a key shipping route, are too low for full cargo loads. As a result, companies are having to ship part loads and increase charges. The river's currently too shallow around Cologne and Duisburg for normal sailings, Reuters reports. Different sections of the Rhine have experienced shallow spells this summer, but not all at once. However, as Europe is experiencing warmer summers, Germany's Federal Waterways and Shipping Agency expects similar issues in future. The Rhine's the main route for 80% of Germany's inland shipping of goods such as natural gas. Some companies are considering specialist low water tankers to allow them to continue shipping during the drier months.
The Stock Market Report. Brought to you by Ramsey Crookhall.
UK stocks were trading slightly lower following a negative close to trading on Wall Street the back end of last week. The dollar rose and oil extended gains after top producers Saudi Arabia and Russia pledged to keep supplies down. Gold receded. The numbers now from Ramsey Crookhall at the close in London. The FTSE 100 down just over 0.1% at the close at 7,554. The DAX in Frankfurt closed marginally down 0.04%, nearly 0.5%, 15,945 in New York City a short time ago. The Dow Jones Industrial up 0.9% at 35,368. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index down 0.2% at 13,880, and the S&P 500 in Chicago up 0.4% at 4,497. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling is trading at $1 27.7 cents, €1 16 cents, and 23 South African rand 88.9 cents. And finally, in commodities, gold's down 0.5% at $1,933 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down 0.7% at $85.39.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookhall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future for a house or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookhall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookhall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Peel Cathedral's closed its doors until around Easter next year, with worship continuing in the Corran Hall. Here's the Dean of Peel Cathedral, the Very Reverend Nigel Godfrey.
Our plan is to flatten the floor. It's very up and down, with wooden platforms on which the pews sit and pipe work, which is the old central heating system, proud of the tiled floor. So it's quite dangerous, but actually more fundamental than that. We're aiming to move towards carbon neutrality, so that by 2030 we hope that we will be a carbon neutral cathedral. So part of that is that we're putting underfloor heating in, which will be powered by air source heat pumps. We're also putting in new toilets, baby change and disabled amongst them, a new commercial kitchen that can serve both community things and cathedral events and so on, and then 2 meeting rooms. We will continue with our daily services, and there's always 2 and often 3 daily. So they will either be in a small chapel or in the main building, and then alongside that there will be community activities, so that the aim is to have the cathedral working morning through to night every day of the week.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Good evening. Manx cyclist Ruby Oakes has bagged a second medal for herself and Team Isle of Man at the 2023 Commonwealth Youth Games this afternoon. Competing in the women's road race, Oakes finished third in a time of 1 hour, 32 minutes and 47 seconds, just a split second ahead of Jessie Munton of South Africa and Lowry Richards of Wales. Gold went to Australia's Kira Will, with Lauren Bates, also of Australia, taking silver. It comes after Oakes also took bronze in the women's time trial over the weekend. Fellow Isle of Man cyclist Tyler Annis will compete in the men's road race from 6 p.m. tonight. Meanwhile, Manx swimmers Magnus Kelly, Ella Justice and Conor Meelan are also competing in the swimming heats this afternoon and into this evening. Should any of them qualify for the finals, they'll take place from approximately 11 p.m. Isle of Man time. In rugby, Manx resident Bevan Rodd has been named in the England squad to take part in the 2023 Rugby World Cup. Rodd is one of the 33 players confirmed by England Rugby Union coach Steve Borthwick for the competition, taking place in France from the 8th of September to the 28th of October. Earlier this year, Rodd was also part of the England Six Nations side held in February and March. England's opening game will be against Argentina at 8 p.m. on Saturday the 9th of September. And in cricket, the Isle of Man women's T20 squad have been crowned winners of the 2023 ECN Continental Cup in Romania. The Manx side took victory in the final day of the competition yesterday, beating Greece by 9 wickets. After the Isle of Man chose to field first, Greece set them a target of 65 for 9 after the full 20 overs. Into bat, and the Isle of Man required just 6 overs to beat that benchmark, finishing with a score of 68 for 1 to take the trophy. As well as securing the winner's trophy, Isle of Man's Lucy Barnett also took the accolade of Player of the Tournament. She took 173 runs in total without being dismissed, along with 6 wickets, 2 catches and a run-out.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Looking good at Ronaldsway tonight. Inbound, it's the 5 to 8 Loganair from Liverpool on time, the 10 past 8 Loganair from London City, and the 25 to 9 EasyJet from Gatwick. Outbound, 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool. The patient transfer plane is on time. And then the 5 past 9 EasyJet back to Gatwick, fingers crossed, on time. The mountain roads closed tonight between 6:30 and 10:30 every night this week between Barrule Park, Ramsey and the Craig for hedge and verge cutting. In Douglas, temporary lights on Victoria Road at the Falconcliff Terrace Junction for water main work, and York Road's closed in Douglas between Woodburn Road and Ballaquail Road for resurfacing. Hillside Avenue is closed till June next year for adjacent office window replacement, and temporary lights on Lake Road in Douglas for work on the curves. In Farm Hill, Annika Road and Cushag Road are closed in phases for resurfacing. 3-way signals on the main road in Kirkmichael for snagging. Blackboard's still got those 24-hour 3-way signals for friction surfacing and line painting. Temporary lights on the Coast Road for patching work at Glenmona. The Ballagorn Road's closed in Baldrine for drainage work. Garth Road closed between Tossaby Road and Foxdale Road for bridge replacement work. East Quay and Peel closed between the House of Manannan and the bridge. And the Ballymenic Road in Derby has got phase closures for water main replacement.
H&H Motorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646.
The Treasury says any extra capital spending on projects such as returning the Peggy to the Nautical Museum in Castletown will need to be carefully considered. A story from William King.
The Director of Manx National Heritage, Connie Lovell, has called on Treasury to confirm funding for the regeneration of the Nautical Museum in Castletown. The plans include building a new boat hall to display the 18th century schooner the Peggy, as well as making other improvements to the site, including improving accessibility. She says the project will cost £6.1 million, with M&H asking Treasury for half of that.
We had said right at the outset that we would do our best to raise as much as we could. We're doing really well, but some of that support is on the basis that this will happen. People don't necessarily, in organisations, and they don't necessarily want to fund something open-ended. They want a very specific project that's going to have an impact on the economy. We need the money confirmed now.
Connie Lovell says the project will aid government in their plans to bring 500,000 visitors to the island by 2032.
I'm not aware of any significant capital investment in visitor attractions to help achieve that figure. Cruise ships coming in, tour operators and tour groups coming in, they are looking for something new. They are selling their itineraries 2 years in advance. We really need to start selling this in the next 12 months, and that will secure hopefully lots of new operators, but it will help us retain the business and bring repeat visitors back to the island.
In response to this, the Treasury sent Manx Radio this statement. It says Manx National Heritage plays an important role in securing and promoting the island's history and culture. There are numerous cost pressures for government finances at this time, time, requiring the use of £152 million from reserves for this financial year. Any extra capital spending will need to be carefully considered against other public spending requirements and may require reprioritising existing spending or ceasing other projects.
The Isle of Man in 30 minutes. Update on Manx Radio with Andy Wint.
Manx football clubs are looking over potential plans for a significant restructure of the Isle of Man men's football leagues from 2024-25. A vote on whether to progress the idea set out going to be held later this month is the Isle of Man FA President Tony Mepham.
Basically, next year would run as normal, and then after the 23-4 season, the Premiership, the teams that have sort of managed to stay up will be the Premiership for 24-25. Division 2 will be obviously the two teams relegated minus the two teams that have got promoted, and then there'll be a Division 3 which will be Combination 1, and then you've got Division 4 which will be Combination 2. Then it all changes again in 24-25 because the two teams that finish first and second in Combination 2, which is Div 4, will be promoted to Division 3. The two teams that finish bottom and next to the bottom in Div 3 will be relegated to Division 4, and then the two top teams in that league will be promoted to Div 2. So basically what could end up is combination sides playing amongst a majority of Division 2 sides, but what can't happen is two teams from the same club cannot be in the same league. We'll pretty well have a good idea how the clubs are thinking on the 29th of August. Then a proposal, if it's sort of okayed with the clubs, because there's no point in putting a rule revision change in if the clubs aren't happy with it. That will be done March, April of 24. And then it would start next season. You know, if it's what clubs want, then we've got to make it work, because people keep saying, the numbers are dropping off in football, and we are sort of a couple of teams at the moment who are struggling for two teams. The actual players playing, Rob, aren't far away from 2-3 years ago, so it isn't in danger. But what it is one or two clubs are really struggling, and if this sort of puts fresh interest into people coming into football and entice referees to come into the game, then why not give it a go?
That's it for Update tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader William King, producer Rhiann Evans. I'm Andy Wint. Back tomorrow, Tuesday, with another update.
WINT